Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We're retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and this guy when we go live and upload another video. Tonight, we're going to talk about the perpetrator in the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, Luigi Mangione, in custody in Pennsylvania, Altoona, Pennsylvania. A whirlwind day, but it's something that you and I, Ed, have been talking about since this crime occurred last Wednesday on the 4th. We said right away that the NYPD, with its partners and with help from the public, will take this perpetrator into custody. And what happened? Day 6 in the morning, we got a guy in custody. We got an impending collar. NYPD is going to write up a fugitive of justice warrant. They're going to do it. They're going to do an extradition hearing, and then we're going to take him out and we're going to bring him back to New York. Ed, how you feeling about what went on today, and how's everything else going?
Well, it's a good day for justice all around. A couple of cases, high-profile cases in New York, all hitting the news at the same time with great results. And thank God for the public. Thank God for that, getting that photograph from the hostile, where he pulled his mask down to flirt with the clerk, and getting that out there to the public. In home run, baby. Thanks to the McDonald's employee. And I hope they get their reward for see something and say something.
Yeah, and you know, crowdsourcing and social media is a great thing when it comes to stuff like this. And we always talk about, you know, when we cover missing person cases, we cover high-profile murder cases like this. You get the names and the faces. You get, if you don't have a name, you get the face out there, and you get the public to see something and say something and do something. And what happened here is a customer inside McDonald's, an elderly customer, noticed this guy and was afraid to do anything. She walked up to the counter and told the McDonald's employee, hey, I think this is the guy they're looking for. He didn't hesitate. They got on the phone and they called 911. Hey, listen, we got a special guest. We actually have two tonight. Joe Cardinale, a retired lieutenant commander. He was on with us last night. Fan favorite. Immediately became a fan favorite because Joe's a great guy. Well, I know he's got to do a couple of spots coming up, so I want to add him in quick. Joe, thanks for joining. Your thoughts on the capture of this perpetrator up in Pennsylvania today?
I mean, it's great that he's in custody. You know, we love that fact. But so many questions, though. You know, Pop, and I know they're coming out to you and Ed as well, Ron. Why do you hold the gun? Why do you keep everything with you? Anybody else would have tossed that. It would have been gone. He went on his merry way. So I had to ask the question today, you know, what's in Altoona? And in Altoona is one of the second largest healthcare providers, which is UPMC, you know, University of Pennsylvania Medical Center, who went and started their own healthcare system. Who knows if this guy was planning something else? I guess we'll know when we find out what that manifest holds.
Well, he's a graduate of that college. Okay, University of Pennsylvania. He's got his undergraduate and graduate degree, and he apparently has family that's in the medical profession. Okay, in Tennessee or another part of the country, I believe, Texas as well. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, maybe he was planning to do another hit, and well, it put an end to all the controversy about the firearm, what type of firearm it was, because we now know exactly what it was, a Glock clone that he probably made himself or had somebody made it for him, and then he purchased it from them illegally.
And you know, it was funny, Ed, 2 nights ago, well, 3 nights ago on Friday night, we had our firearms expert from the NYPD, retired Jim Ganello, right? He came on and he spoke really strongly about that firearm that we saw in the video depicting the crime occurring, and he said it's semi-auto with a suppressor. And for him to say that, you know, this guy's handled tens of thousands of firearms, I yield to him immediately because, you know how we do it here on Crime Time with Duty Run. If we don't have that expertise, now I've got the advantage of Ed Wallace, of course, but if we don't have the expertise, we yield to the professionals. So we asked Jimmy to come on with us, and he gave his professional opinion. Yes, there was pushback. Yes, there was people in the chat. Yes, there was people in our comment section. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You know, here we are. I want to play a little piece because I know you got just a little bit of time, and we've got retired NYPD Sergeant, Amazing Aunt. She doesn't like to be doxxed, so I'm just going to call her Amazing Aunt. She's still got some things pending with the job, so she's joining us. I'm going to put her into the studio. Aunt, thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, you're going to give us the patrol perspective because, as we know, the Altoona police officer had 6 months on the job. Bosses down here, both of you guys, a rookie. He was just happy to take this mutt off the street. I love to use that word, that mutt. He was happy to take this mutt off the street. And he said it at the press conference, so it was pretty cool. Let's just take a listen to Rob Boyce. He said something good on this little piece. It's only a couple of minutes. And then we also have a couple other people from the job that I want you guys to hear from, and we'll get some of your thoughts.
Multi-state manhunt for the man authorities believe killed UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Luigi Mangione, 26 years old, was spotted by an employee at a McDonald's who recognized him and called police. Officers took Mangione into custody on a gun charge after discovering that he had a ghost gun in his possession. He was also reported to be carrying several fake IDs, a suppressor, a computer, and a 3-page document in which he railed against the healthcare industry.
So there's the gun, and I'm only going to stop this one time because it shows a good picture of it. And look, I have my Glock service weapon that I got in '95, thanks to Police Commissioner William Bratton. When Bratton took over the transit, and then he got on board with the NYPD, we all got our semi-autos. But I just want to put myself back on the screen real quick. I'm going to go full screen with me, only solo layout. And then look at this. Where did I go? All right, but so this is my weapon, and it looks exactly like that. And Ed, you and I broke it down. Polymer stock, metal rail running up.
Yours is real. Yours is real. His is a clone. Okay. Right. So a 3D printer could make the lower on that gun, or you can buy what's called a P80 kit, and you'll get the lower portion, and it'll give you a template to how to drill it out so that you can attach the metal upper and the barrel to it. It is what they call it a ghost gun because when it's a self-made gun that there are kits for, and there's no serial number for that gun. But then there's the suppressor issue. So where do you get that? Because usually either you build it or you buy it, and if you buy it legitimately, you have to get a federal license tax stamp for it. So a lot more research has to be done in this investigation to figure out how he came into possession of this firearm. But, he's computer savvy and he's a techie. So there's no doubt in my mind, if you have a 3D printer capable, a 3D printer, and you have the materials, all you have to do is download, pay for it and download the plans and print out that lower. Now, that's another thing about these 3D printed guns. Their tolerances aren't as good as the actual manufacturers. So that lower portion made out of polymer may not have fit properly with the upper, and therefore it was causing all these failure to feed situations that you saw there. Because there was a lot of gunshot residue that was popping out of that gun when he was discharging it, when it finally did fire. And it wasn't coming from the normal spots that a gunshot residue would come out of a gun.
Yeah, that whole thing was a mess. And each time he went to use it, he had to do the tap, rack, bang technique. And anyone who's a cop knows that terminology. It's like ingrained in our brains, right? So he did that quite a few times during the course of this attack. So let's just watch the rest of this.
Straight.
Here's a live look at the police station right now in Altoona, where Mangione is right now. He's due in court this evening. Our Anthony Johnson will have a live report from Pennsylvania coming up on Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock.
Joining us now to talk more about the investigation leading up to this arrest and where law enforcement goes after this is former New York City Chief of Detectives, Robert Boyce. Thank you so much for being with us, Chief Boyce.
Good to be here, Sandra Bill. Thank you.
Good old-fashioned police work is how this has been described for much of the day. And I'm thinking, well, nothing's old-fashioned about cameras on every corner and being able to literally to track this guy down. Pretty much every move he made. Talk to us a little bit about how all this sort of, I guess, congealed and resulted in this arrest earlier today in Pennsylvania.
So in Manhattan, I always say, if you commit a crime in Manhattan, you're crazy to begin with, because we're going to get you. It's as simple as that. And yet people do. In this particular crime, detectives really, this is not easily done, this painstaking work. You have to leapfrog and find where he goes all the way up. And we did. We saw him in the park. We saw him out of the park. Yeah, he commits the murder, allegedly. Right now, he's entitled to the defense. Commits the murder and then gets on a bus 45 minutes later. He's disciplined in his planning. But here's the thing, Bill and Sandra. That ID card you just showed, it had the name that he used at the hostel. And that's qualifying information we don't give out. We say he's got a fake ID, but we don't give out the name. So when the officers, detectives are talking to the Altoona police, they say, what's the name on the ID? And immediately says Mark Rosario. You know, you got.
There you go.
So
that's more than likely 100% what happened from afar. Our detectives called into the Altoona police station and said, hey, those 4 IDs, what do you got on them? What does it say? And once they say that, bam, you got a match. It's a wrap at this point for the most part. Now, pending, obviously, the forensics. Ed, I know you're going to talk a little bit about the gun and matching up the ballistics and so forth, but let's just take a listen to the rest of this, and then we'll go to our esteemed panel for some of their thoughts.
So incredibly gifted young man, but not operationally smart. He's carrying quite possibly the murder weapon. He's carrying a manifesto with him, admitting to the thing, and the fake ID, and probably the mask as well. All these things line up immediately that you have your person. And so now, where he escaped from New York, and he gets on a bus to Philly from there, and then Philly to Altoona.
And now he's walked out of the Altoona Police Department. We're going to show you this. Just a photo. This is the photo. They have a new photo of the guy. Let me ask you something, Bob. You just talked about the whole multi-state. There it is. This is the photo we were talking about. That's a mugshot inside Altoona. He doesn't look happy there. He looked happy in the other picture. And he was a smart student. He has a master's degree and a regular degree, and both at the same time at Pennsylvania. So that was, that's a big deal. He's got some brain somewhere, or at least he did have it. Bob, are you surprised at how fast this went? Because in the end, it was see something, do something. And that's what won this battle right away.
Those distinctive eyebrows, they jump right out of it. You can't miss them. Yeah. And I'm sure, I don't know if he was wearing his mask when they made the ID in the McDonald's, but you couldn't miss it at that point. It's the guy. Is what you're doing. And they had, and see something, say something. It worked really well. So all these things, troubled young man by far, when you start doing a deep dive on him on social media, it's really scary stuff what he's talking about.
One quick question, because they're telling us we're running out of time. How quickly are we likely to see him in custody back here in New York?
It's a great question. We're going to find out tonight at that hearing that he's going to right now.
Right. So there you have it, guys. Joe, I want to go to you because I know you got to go in a short period of time. Extraditions, and we've all seen them. You worked as a commander of a squad. I did it with Fugitive. These things go relatively quick, providing the perpetrator waives his extradition hearing. These guys, some of them are stupid, and some of them get stubborn and say, you know what, I'm not going to waive it. I want to fight it. I want to stay here. But then when their defense attorney gets assigned to them, they tell them, hey, look, the time that you spend here, sitting here for 30 to 45 days, it doesn't count towards time served, towards time in. It's just you're in suspended animation. That doesn't count as in custody time. So once they hear that, they usually just waive it and then they just go. He's facing gun charges there for the possession in that McDonald's. But I would say that the district attorney is going to say, listen, you guys got bigger fish to fry. We're going to defer these charges. We're going to let you take them back to New York. What's your thoughts on that, boss? Because you've done this before.
Well, you could take the federal approach on it too. I mean, you can, crossing the state lines with it. And I was kind of wondering about the swabbing that they were speaking about as well. but it seems like they were lining everything up to get it back to New York. And I'll tell you the truth, I wish they would prosecute this federally, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't trust Bragg and Manhattan to do the right thing with this case. I really don't.
Yeah, it's a scary thought when you think about it. The way they go after these cases. Ed's shaking his head. Amazing, Ann. I wanted to go to you. You're a retired sergeant, coming back here to New York City. High profile case like this, I think that they're going to try to throw the kitchen sink at it. But again, like Joe just said, you never know what you're going to get out of this guy, Bragg. So your thoughts, Ann?
Lieutenant, thank you for sharing that insight. Hit the nail on the head. 100% it should be federal, based alone on the facts and the law, interstate, right? He went cross state lines, and it's not just who he murdered, it's the dynamics of the entire meditated, so it appears, right? He's due process, he's entitled to due process, but even the gun jamming, and I saw you guys go over it on Friday night, he had multiple opportunities to stop shooting and he continued, and he had a lot of calculated evidence that he was obviously with intent. So crossing the state lines and getting as far as he did with limited resources, he had well calculated resources to get that far. And as we know in past history with Timothy McVeigh, who did the Oklahoma bombing, he was stopped in a car stop. And it's through the patrol, first line, the detectives, the good supervisors such as Lieutenant Joe, who's here, that allow cops to do their job. But if you see something, say something, because something as minor as a traffic stop or sitting at McDonald's and someone saw the poster or social media outlet, it led everyone to Altoona today. So I think that's really important to recognize everyday citizens who help us do our job to protect them.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Amazing, Ann. Ed, you're muted. I know you got something to say, but you're muted.
Yeah, because I was coughing. But, well, this guy, like I said the other night, he's got all the earmarks of Ted Kaczynski. Okay. Yeah. Where did he radicalize? Because if you look at his social media and what he's been saying, okay, he comes from a pretty rich family. Yeah. His high school was $40,000 a year. Okay. So somewhere along the line, he became an anti-capitalist and he became anti healthcare, and so what motivated him to do this? What triggered him to do this, and to post the things that he posted? Because now that's open source, that's out there. Everybody can read his postings and how he feels about society, how he feels about capitalism, and so forth. Because those seems to be motivating factors in why he did what he did. And as the lieutenant just said, he could have been going to Altoona to commit more in that jurisdiction.
Yeah, and born and raised in Maryland. It didn't say what part of Maryland. He's got ties to San Francisco, California, but his last known address is Honolulu, Hawaii. He came here, and some of our live chatters and some people in the comment section, you guys really give great insight to other points of view. But we're coming at it from a police detective's perspective and point of view. But I love to hear what our live chatters and the folks that watch the replays. But many of the folks left messages of like comments like, where did this go wrong for him? And Ed, you just touched on it. That's something that you have to look into, and you have to say, where did it go wrong for him? And where was he on Thanksgiving with a wealthy family? Were they wondering where he was, or did he make up some kind of story that, look, I'm still in Hawaii and I'm just staying over here? Because he's 26 years old. I have kids that his age, and for holidays they come home. So where was he for 10 days between Thanksgiving and the time of this murder? And why did his wealthy family just feel like, well, we didn't really need to get in touch with him? Those are all things that need to be uncovered somewhere down the line. Joe?
And
Hey, Ron, I'm sorry, Ed, but just on that point, I believe that they have some of his messages that he was receiving, and apparently he's been off the radar for a while. Went off the reservation for quite a while. And they've been, he was supposed to, one of the examples was he was supposed to go to somebody's wedding, possibly be in the wedding party or something. And the guy's saying like, dude, you got to let me know whether you're going to be at the wedding or anything. You got to let me know. I got to figure these things out.
Right.
And it was like 3 or 4 messages like that, and he wasn't getting back to anybody. So this seems to be in the works for a little while that he went off the reservation like that. And not only that, I think one of the answers was about the grandparents, something with the health issues with the grandparents. But until they read that manifest, and they see what's the words that he put down on there, and it's great that they have it too, because they'll compare the handwriting now to the live and spent rounds that they have there, which is going to be another key piece and everything. But they're far from over with this case. They have so much work to do with it.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to really be careful about when somebody steps in and says, that's it, I'm not saying another word, this and that, the whole 9 yards. That good old defense attorney will step in and they'll say, well, we got, and there's no deals made here. But my guess is he's going to want to speak. He wants to say what's on his mind. He wants to get his moment out there, and he wants to say something. All right. But once again, we have to play it by the book all the way down the line. And I believe the Chief Kenny kept it very short today. He answered the questions to the best of his ability without giving anything, like our illustrious mayor.
Yeah.
And he just gets over there and says, listen, we have work to do with this, and we want to see what's going on with it. But the one thing that surprised me was when he said, no, this is the first time we know his name, we know his real name.
Yeah.
Not other than what he presented, so now they never heard that name before because they had the other name that they were going by.
And what's with his parents? If this kid is, estranged, right? This is international news. That photograph has been everywhere for the last 6 days.
Yeah.
How come nobody from his family called up and say, hey, that's my missing brother. That's my missing son. That's my missing nephew. Well,
Nobody said anything. They're wealthy people, and they'll probably invoke counsel for themselves. Hey, should I say something or should I not? No, shut your mouth. I just want to expand on what you just said, Joe. I watched the press conference from Pennsylvania, and the Pennsylvania governor made a statement about reporters they were doing questions and answers, and one of the reporters asked a good question. They said, "Is this defendant still talking?" And they said that he was cooperative in speaking when he was first approached by a uniform officer, but once it sunk in and he was at the station house, he invoked his right to seek counsel, and so he is not talking now. According, I'm getting this from that press conference that I watched, 21 minutes worth, where our chief of the department went down there and the whole crew from major case homicide was down there and so forth. I want to go back to ghost guns for a second, because a lot of people are have questions as it pertains to it. I have a small piece on ghost guns, and I'm not an expert at it, and I wish Jimmy was here with us tonight, but we could always ask him questions. Channel 7 did a great piece with the ATF on ghost guns, and they did it tonight. So I want to just play this real quick. Joe, do you have a couple more? You said it 10:15 you got to run?
10:15 I'll log on with the other one.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so let's look at this piece. I sped it up so it'll go quick, and then we'll talk about these ghost guns and how problematic they are, because they're not traceable, they don't have serial numbers, and they are a menace to the street. They're out there, and they're doing a lot of damage. As we could see, you used the ghost gun in this murder.
The dangers they pose. Dan?
Bill and Sandra, ghost guns have become a big problem for police over the past 5 years. The parts can be bought online. They've been put together in a matter of minutes. And unlike other guns, there's no serial number. They're virtually untraceable. We don't know yet if the gun used to fire the fatal shot shown in these surveillance images is a ghost gun. Police say the 26-year-old man apprehended today had one on him. This is a picture of the recovered firearm.
May have been made on a 3D printer, the capability of firing a 9mm round. Obviously, that will come out during our ballistics testing.
Ghost guns have been a concern for local and federal police. They can be bought already put together. They can be printed out in a 3D printer and assembled.
That come like this, where it's all set up and all you need to really do is follow the mold.
Or ghost gun kits can be purchased online.
Some of the kits come with everything required to build it in a matter of 20, 30 minutes with very little tools.
It's a growing problem for local police. The NYPD recovered 150 ghost guns in 2020. That's compared to 382 so far this year, a 154% increase.
They don't know what your background is. They don't know your criminal history. Anybody with a credit card, and it's easy. could sit here right now on their phone, on their personal computer, and order parts and kits to build one of these guns.
They look the same, right?
Unbelievable.
And that's how they're designed. I mean, that's the whole point of it.
We went to the
All right, I just want to stop it here. This is a news reporter with an ATF agent, and he's going to fire a real gun, a real branded firearm, and then he's going to fire a ghost gun. And you guys are going to be shocked by this.
shooting range with the ATF to shoot a regular gun and a ghost gun. It shoots exactly the same.
And that
I'd have no idea.
No.
So looking at these, you can't tell the difference, and also shooting them, you can't tell the difference.
no, you can't. No.
Even though it's a homemade gun, it fires the same bullets. Police say they're now doing ballistic tests to see if the gun recovered today matches shell casings and bullets left outside the Midtown Hotel last week. We went behind the scenes of the NYPD's forensic crime lab in the past, where they showed us how they go about doing that. Detectives fire a shot from a recovered gun, as they showed us in this example, into a vat of water. They then put the bullets and casings from the firearm under a microscope. Each gun leaves unique imprints behind. Over the past few years, the price of ghost guns has gone down dramatically, with the number of companies selling them.
So, Ed, I want to go to you and talk about what we just saw there and those imprints that these firearms leave on the on the cartridges, and that's what is going to be. That's going to come into play in this case, obviously.
Well, yeah, not just that, plus the recovered bullets from autopsy, and they're going to match it back to the barrel if it is, in fact, from that gun. They'll know that. They'll have the cartridge cases. Again, the cartridge cases will have the breech marks, the firing pin impression. It'll have the ejector and extractor marks, and so they'll do all the analysis of that. And then the ejected live cartridges, same thing. They'll look for the extractor and ejector marks and try to examine that as well. In addition, like I said, you have the DNA. Okay, so they ran there. They drove like 3.5, 4 hours straight to Altoona. The district attorney's office drove, and the detectives drove out there, the FBI, and they all met up out there. They swabbed them. They're running the swab back to the medical examiner's DNA lab back in New York City. We'll know within hours, possibly by tomorrow, if it's him, based on the DNA they recovered from the water bottle and the power bar wrapper.
Right. And now, being that he's in custody in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if Joe, you can answer this, or, Ed, this is for our audience, obviously, a DNA swab, would that require a warrant to do it, or would they just be able to do it, because he's in custody there for a felony?
Well, either consent or a warrant. Okay. Now, the warrant from New York would have to then be brought to Pennsylvania and go before a magistrate or a judge in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And then that judge will have to sign off on that warrant from New York in Pennsylvania to allow the New York City police to take the swab and then run it back to New York.
Unless they went with a federal warrant.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Unless they went with a federal warrant, because then that takes them, the jurisdiction and everything, and they don't even need the extradition at that point. They really don't. They can just go with the federal aspect of it. They can do what they have to do there, but it makes it a lot easier to get that person back. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when he does get back over here. That's going to be like the puzzle pieces that we really want to see. I really want to see that see what that manifesto contains. It's going to have so much information in there and his thoughts. And then, like the chief said, let's go back when they start uncovering everything. And the other $1 million question is, where does, Mr. Thompson come into this?
Right.
Because as we discussed before, how does he still happen to come upon him at 6:45 in the morning at that particular spot, unless he watched him? And let's, don't forget, if that bus left on Wednesday after the occurrence, all right, he's been there since Wednesday. It doesn't take, he's there since Wednesday. What has he been doing? Now they have to backtrack him over there too. What has he been doing over in Pennsylvania since Wednesday?
Right.
So,
or Joe, has he gone from New York to New Jersey, stayed a day or two in New Jersey, then went to Pennsylvania? We don't know if it was a direct bus route to Pennsylvania, because they did say that the Port Authority had buses leaving from there direct to Altoona. But if he, maybe he went and transversed to multiple places, Connecticut, New Jersey, and then on to
Philly.
Philly. Look at this comment, Ed. I want you to address this comment.
No, it wasn't the vet pistol. So for all of those people who were, giving us the business in the comments section about it being not us not knowing what we're talking about, and it was the vet pistol. I guess not.
We got the most hate on that comment, on that on the gun, on that subject, on that topic. Everyone thought that we had it wrong, but again, like I said, I trust the professionals. Like if we have something with the law, I go to a lawyer. I'll go to a criminal defense attorney. I'll get our friend Pete, and I'll have Pete come on. He used to be a Queens district attorney, and I'll have him come on and he'll talk to us about the law. Amazing Ant, let's talk about this rookie cop coming across. He gets a call over 911 to McDonald's for a possible fugitive. Small police department. I looked into them. They're not teeny weeny, but it's not a big police department. Do they automatically roll a sergeant over there, or does this kid just take it on his own, 6 months on the job?
Well, I can't compete with the lieutenant here, who would be my boss.
You
most certainly can, believe me.
My cops called me only when they really had to. It was housing, right? But in a situation like this, and you all know what I mean by that for those who are police officers or on the job or formerly on the job, I just have to say the suspect is very calculating, very resourceful. And we could talk about this later because I know the lieutenant has to go, so I'll answer your question. But he's giving me Son of Sam vibes in terms of how calculating he is and the euphoric high he's getting from leaving the crumbs behind. These are all trophies that he has. They're all symbolic, the Monopoly money, even his quote unquote ghost gun. It's all going to come out, as the lieutenant said. But back to patrol, it's impressive to see this rookie officer. No one got shot and killed. And I always look at that as the win. The second win is a suspect in custody. The first win, no civilian and no officer was injured fatally or injured during this encounter. I call it an encounter. I wasn't there. I didn't see the body camera. I was on the road all day, so I haven't watched any press.
Yeah. None of it's available.
Yeah, I figured probably not yet. The rookie cop, unfortunately, in the atmosphere we're living in, a lot of cops are jaded, right? They're taking the job for the benefits, not just the pride of the job. But this officer acted like he had time on the job to approach this individual in the manner that he did, from what I'm hearing, and the maturity. It wasn't hot, heavy, guns blazing, cowboys, right? Because I'm thinking a fugitive. My personality goes hot and fast, right. Especially when I show up to a scene, right?
Right.
But
yes.
He was very calm, very calculating, and they were organized as best as possible for this situation. And I think listening to the caller, the 911 call as a patrol officer, and then getting to the scene and doing a survey and assessing what you have is crucial, because this suspect was armed. Yeah. And this could have gone a different direction. He could have had his hand on the gun and then shot the officer, right, through his sweater, through his jacket. So the officer disarmed him, I think, by his calm presence and his authority at the same time.
Let's listen to what the rookie had to say, because he did a great job, and he was very complimentary to the McDonald's worker and also the person who notified the worker. So let's take a listen to him.
You step this way a little bit, and then his partner that he was with, Officer Joe Detweiler.
Officer, could you maybe identify yourself and maybe describe that whole interaction and what played out? Spell your name.
Yeah, Patrolman Fry, Tylerfrye. So whenever we got on scene there, we were able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was very cooperative with us. Didn't really give us too many issues. Once we found out his identity, we took it from there.
How did it feel after 6 months on the job as a law enforcement officer?
I can't say I was expecting it by any means, but it feels good to get a guy like that off the street, especially starting my career this way. It feels great.
Sir, upon his arrest, has he made any statements since his arrest? Has he asked for a lawyer yet?
To my knowledge, he hasn't made any statements.
How long was he staying in Altoona, and where was he staying? And then was the gun on himself, or was it in like a car somewhere?
We are still investigating how long he's been in Altoona. There's still a lot of follow-up to do in this case. Again, the men and women behind me are assisting with that. So we're still looking into it.
I'm going to ask Lieutenant Colonel Bivens of the Pennsylvania State Police to address the question you just raised.
All right, so Lieutenant Colonel Bivens comes on now and tells about how they got the gun, and this was surprising to me. Well, I'll let him say it, and then I know you got to go, Joe. But Lieutenant Colonel Bivens is from the Pennsylvania State Police. How we've seen him is most recently at President Trump's attempted assassination, and B, before that, we had him on the Danilo Cavalcante escape prison from the Pennsylvania local. I think it was a local jail, or it might even been a state jail, but he scaled the wall and got out and was on the run for a long, long time. This guy is a pro. I like this guy. He's an old school cop. But he's an executive now. He's going to say how they got this gun, and for me, I was shocked about that. But let's take a listen.
Thank you. So there are a lot of things that need to be followed up yet in this investigation. Certainly, there were a number of items that were found on his person in his backpack that have been inventoried, and we've begun to do an analysis of some of those. There were written documents. There are electronic devices that are in the process of being downloaded. Search warrants are obtained. And so over the next hours and days, those efforts will continue. And we're going to take a closer look at all of the information that we can glean from that regarding his activities up until and during the time of the homicide, his flight from New York. And we know that he has been in Pennsylvania, excuse me, for several days. And so part of that investigation will also focus on trying to retrace his steps. We've already identified businesses, for example, that he frequented in this area and activities that he engaged in. That led us to more evidence. And so all of that is becoming kind of a mountain of evidence that has to be analyzed and looked at. I'm confident we'll have a much better idea of his activities over the past number of days in New York and in Pennsylvania. Additionally, we're also trying to determine that we don't have another actor or an accomplice out there. And so this information will be used to help us prove or disprove whether that exists and whether there were any other intended targets. So a lot of questions that are out there that are unanswered yet, but we have a lot of information that we can examine that hopefully will give us some of those pieces of data that we need. Someone asked about the interview. He was initially cooperative. He is not now. And so he has been arraigned and transported and will be securely housed pending the filing of additional charges in New York.
All right, I know you got to go, Joe, so I'm going to get us back on. So essentially what he says, because I listened to this whole thing, the firearm and the silencer were not recovered until they got him back to the station house. I mean, Ed, I know you dot your I's and cross your T's, but I listened to this quickly. Again, I spent the afternoon in Sloan Kettering getting radiation treatment. So as soon as I came back here to the command center, I started taking in information. And when Lieutenant Colonel Bivens said that the firearm was recovered in his backpack at the station house, I was like, oh my Lanta. I don't even know who he has to go to first here. Sarge, let's go
Lieutenant.
to you.
Lieutenant, he has to hop off now.
You're a patrol sergeant. But okay. Lieutenant, let's put it on you because you got to go in a little bit.
I'll go right after you, boss.
Okay, so here's the thing. They had the possession of there was the key words I heard right there, which I was so happy to hear, was search warrant. All right. Mm-hmm. So they took it back and they took it. I'm sure they tossed him, but the actual backpack that he has now, and they get a search warrant, that's music to my ears. All right. That is music to my ears because now everything falls into place.
Right.
All right. And that to me was one of the biggest questions I had this afternoon when I was talking to Frankie Saccone about this. Oh, and I said, Frankie, and he says, yeah, and we were hashing it around just like we do here. And that's what people get the benefit of, you picking Ed's brain, Ed picking your brain, picking the sergeant's brain. This is the benefit of everybody that's listening right now. because we all speak about these things and we go, well, what if this, what if that? And this is what happened in the squad during my days. We would sit there and go, what about this scenario? What about that scenario? And we never got the tunnel vision. And I was so happy that you just played that because you answered something very big for me. You know, those 2 words, search warrant, that was great.
So search incidental to a lawful arrest doesn't come in here because this is not like a regular arrest. This is a fugitive who's wanted for murder in another state.
Kind of disagree.
I was thinking as a patrol cop, you know, you lock a guy up, he's got fake ID. Okay, he's got a backpack. Now I'm going to go through it and do an inventory and see what's in there before we get him in the back of the patrol car. But again, that's the great part of having a think tank like this, where, you know, we can bounce things off of each other. Like you said, Frankie Chacon, what a great guy. I mean, when I worked at the PSA, he, unbelievable investigator. So I'd love to have him on too. Boy, that would be
I'll get him on.
Oh, that would be a thrill.
You better have 2 hours. You better have 2 hours for that, though. So,
listen, our audience would love 10 hours if we could go live with this. Amazing Ant, you had something to say?
Search warrant, 100% excellent. We had to deal with the federal monitor in New York City for stop, question, and frisk. You all know that, the abuse of stop, question, and frisk, and we had to go for training and retraining. Right. And one of the things that came up is the lungible area. We all know that. And for those who don't know that, who are watching, within reach of the perpetrator's possession. And in a situation like that, exigent circumstances, they could have legally gone to the bag. However, good defense is going to want the search warrant, especially, as you mentioned, federal. However, in New York City, that we had to get retrained on this. We used to do inventory search, the trunk, the car, the bag, back at the precinct, secondary to arrest. My priority as a patrol officer in Brownsville, Crown Heights, and the Bronx, and a sergeant, is safety. So as long as we say toss, but searched properly on the field, I want that guy searched at least by 3 people. 3 different people, because we found things by the 3rd cop after 2 of us went through someone with contraband. So personally, the gun for patrol cops who don't know the training, they probably would have reached into the bag and that might have been thrown out. And the search warrant for this high profile case is crucial. However, they could have argued because he was a fugitive and a violent crime, obviously, right? Murder. But New York City's training police officers that they can reach in, but it has to be really buttoned up. As you mentioned, Lieutenant, the search warrant really covers all bases.
Yeah, especially since I'm going to jump off right after this, guys, and I apologize, but let me tell you something. It's better to be safe than sorry with this, especially a high-profile case. You can't go wrong. You already have the body. You already have him. He's cuffed. You have him. You're taking him in. That knapsack's not going anyplace. The only danger there is what's in that knapsack. You know, God forbid he had anything in there. That's the bad thing about this whole thing. But I guess they played it safe and everything because, you know, we spoke about this, how they went over it. Ed, you described it, how they went over the knapsack in Central Park. So
exactly. I mean,
bomb squad, right?
If they took possession of the bag, right, and they separated him from the bag, I would have laid the bag down and called the bomb squad. Hey, or get a dog out here, K9. Okay, all right. So if you got a bomb detecting K9, get the dog here and let the dog run the bag. Okay. And I mean, just for officer safety, you don't have to go in it, but you let the dog run the bag, or you call the bomb squad and have them x-ray it. And once you cleared any explosive threat, now you take possession of the bag, bring it back to the command and voucher it, wait for the warrant. 100% on board with the warrant. I'd rather have a warrant any day of the week than consent, because you know, boss, you know how consent can be pulled back later. Oh, I was under duress, or, you know, they tricked me and blah, blah, blah. And then next thing you know, you lost your evidence.
All right, Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale, he's got to run. Thank you.
Jumping off. Ladies and gents, I shall speak to you again. All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joe.
I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Thanks, Joe. All right. There he goes. Joe Cardinale, just removed him. Lieutenant Commander, retired from the NYPD, a great guy. Hey, here's another component to this. And we do this and we see this with all the cases. Chris Watts has his fan. He has his fangirls. Wade Wilson got his fangirls. This guy, Luigi, is no different. This perp has already. My wife showed me tonight. She was on TikTok, scrolling through it, TikTok, looking at the merchandise on the TikTok shop. And there's girls that are in love with this guy. So I'm going to put it on the screen. Here we are. This is him with the backpack on, out there in the tundra, wherever he is. It looks like could have been Hawaii. I don't know. But this is a piece that I want to play for you guys because it goes over some of his family history and so forth. And then we're going to go to the chat. Hashtag DutyRon, hashtag Ed, hashtag, could we see hashtag Ant, or do you want amazing?
Yeah, that's fine. Whichever.
It's easy. Ant. That's why I said that. All right. Hashtag Ant, hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon, and we'll take your questions.
This is the Ivy League graduate and valedictorian who police say is the suspected CEO assassin.
Luigi Nicholas Mangione.
Luigi Mangione is from a wealthy Maryland family. He was valedictorian at his graduation from a $40,000 a year private school with a carnation in his buttonhole.
It's been an incredible journey, and I simply can't imagine the last few years with any other group of guys. Thank you.
He is now a data.
That was in 2016, his valedictorian speech. I have the whole thing. I'll link it in the description. I just don't have the stomach to play it here, but he gives a complete speech for 20 minutes.
Engineer with a degree from the University of Pennsylvania. This is a muscle-bound Mangione working at an office in Honolulu where he last lived. He is 26 years old and was arrested in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 100 miles east of Pittsburgh, and held at this local police headquarters.
He is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan.
A McDonald's employee recognized the grinning suspect from the surveillance camera images seen around the country. That employee then called 911. Police say he had a gun, a silencer, fake IDs, and what is described as a manifesto. That manifesto reportedly says of healthcare executives, those parasites had it coming, and I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done. This is one of the fake IDs found on Mangione. It's said to match the one used by the killer to check into a hostel in Upper Manhattan. He is said to be a big admirer of the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, responsible for a 20-year mail bombing campaign.
That's why I played this, Ed. I got to put you on. What did you say just last night?
I said it. Yeah, I said he has all the earmarks of Ted Kaczynski.
And there you have it on Inside Edition. I'm going to put it back.
Check into a hostel in Upper Manhattan. He is said to be a big admirer of the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, responsible for a 20-year mail bombing campaign. Police say when he was busted at the McDonald's, he was carrying a gun he made himself with a 3D printer. His family owns 2 country clubs in Maryland. And
looks pretty damn nice, those country clubs.
This a clue to an alleged motive? It's an image on Mangione's social media showing an X-ray of 4 pins in a spinal injury.
Now, you know, that could add to the motive, right? I mean, look, this is on his Instagram or on his X account or on his Facebook. I don't know what it is. Unfortunately, I will not go and start stalking and looking at this guy's Instagram or social media because it's not our job to investigate him.
So who has the spinal injury?
So we don't know if it's him because he did. There was some of the video that people were looking at and saying, hey, looks like he walks with a limp or he walks a little hunched over. This could be his, or it could be a family member. I don't know. I know that there's people, anybody in the chat that knows, is this his? Or was this just this on his account and he was ranting about it? But Kim Robinson says he does. This is his injury. So this could be personal. This could be his personal reason why he was doing what he was doing. But I'm glad Joe came on because he talked about another large healthcare company in Altoona. So that could have been another reason why he was over there.
It's unclear whether D Printer. His family owns 2 country clubs in Maryland. And is this a clue to an alleged motive? It's an image on Mangione's social media showing an X-ray of 4 pins in a spinal injury. It's unclear whether Mangione is the patient. The breakthrough in the case came as police divers continued to search a lake in New York Central Park for items dumped by the assassin. A backpack believed to have been worn by the killer was found in the park Friday night. It contained clothing and, of all things, wads of Monopoly money. Much funny about murder, But Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update delivered a half dozen one-liners about the assassin.
And it really says something about America that a guy was murdered in cold blood, and the two main reactions were, yeah, well, healthcare stinks. And also, girl, that shooter hot.
That's pathetic. I didn't even know that was on there.
Disgusting.
Yeah. It's just people are just out of their minds. So again, we called it day one. Ed, remember when we went live I was in my office on Wednesday when they had this press conference. We did a whole hour and 40 minutes live stream. We talked about the NYPD and how great they are at hunting down fugitives that go on the run, leaving the country, staying within the country, U.S. Marshals embedded, the FBI, and our partnership with the good law-abiding citizens are folks who are out there that are cheerleaders for justice, not cheerleaders for a murderer. These are the people who got it done. The public helped in conjunction with the media and putting out the pictures through the police department. And I hope that woman or whoever, woman, man, whoever saw this guy, and I saw one of the reports that said it was an elderly woman. I hope that she gets that $60,000 and maybe she'll split it with the McDonald's worker. I don't know, but that $60,000 is owed and due to them upon his conviction, or his arrest and conviction. The arrest is forthcoming, an arrest warrant for fugitive of justice. Now, Amazing Aunt, how many times have I locked people up for fugitive of justice warrants? And
well, I was going to bring that up, Ron, DutyRon. Working with you when I was at the wheel, for those, I saw a comment that you want less police jargon. So pardon me, I'm still rusty. DutyRon's the pro, and so is Ed Wallace. When I worked with DutyRon and I would get the notifications that a prisoner's wanted, let's say Altoona, a lot of times patrol officers would call us from the street because they would see something on their computer flagging the person they stopped connected to a crime in New York City. And patrol police officers are usually the front line to interact with these individuals, these suspects at traffic stops or domestic violence calls. And they would notify the warrants division, the fugitive task force, and then we would verify all the info. It's more high tech now. From when I was on the job, there's more technology. However, those calls led us to package this packet, and then when DutyRon would come into work, he would have a file and it would be prioritized by the crime, the location, and he would go as far as Buffalo, the border of Canada, and states nationwide, Florida, Maryland, Pennsylvania. So the beauty of this collaboration is none of this would have happened if a citizen didn't call the cop and the cop didn't do their due diligence. That police officer said he remembered his face. Yeah. Not a lot of police officers are as invested because they're burnt out. And that's another conversation where some of them are just like, oh, we're never going to get this guy. This is Manhattan. This police officer, 244 miles away from New York City, a 4.4-hour drive, he saw that flyer and paid attention. And who would have thought the killer, suspected killer, would be in Altoona? So kudos to that officer who took it just as serious as NYPD. Ed, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The news kept saying, oh, they finally got the killer, quote unquote. I won't say the network, but one in particular, because I texted Ron late at night from misinformation from a network that said he was in custody, right, DutyRon? That the way they reported it.
Yeah, it was over the weekend. Yeah.
It was over the weekend. But they're saying, why did it take so long? I don't know. Call me naive because I'm not a detective. I don't think it took so long for where he ended up. And DutyRon brought up a point that perhaps this individual stopped at other locations and he was sophisticated, sloppy, they were obviously, right? But sophisticated enough to make it past 24, 48 hours out of New York City. So do you think this took a long time in the era we're living in, or do you think it was about right with the collaboration with our partners?
Well, given the fact of how mobile our society is and how he got out of Dodge less than an hour after he committed the crime, he was on a bus to points unknown. Okay. I think, we're lucky because he could have got on a plane and he could have been on the other side of the world in less than 12 hours. Okay. So I think it was, you know, with the help of the community, getting that photograph out all over the news airwaves, get it out there. And, you know, people love true crime, and people all over this. Hey, we have an all-star cast in the chat tonight. We got Timmy Acosta and Bill Ryan. Another couple of first grade
Joey
detectives.
Brooklyn.
Yeah. And then
Renzo's wife.
I think it's about right. No, I think it's about right. You know,
I think so.
His mistake was stop moving. He stopped moving.
Yeah.
And got tired and hungry.
And I said this last night. It's just going to be a matter of time, because the NYPD and all of the partners and everybody across the United States, police departments, every police department had his picture. It's gone out to all the roll calls in small departments, large departments. And when you narrow this guy's world, and he now knows that he has to look over his back, over his shoulder, sleep with one eye open, he's bound to get tired after a while. It's just human nature, and he's going to make a mistake. And I said it last night when you and I were live late last night, like this is like what we're doing here tonight. I said that the guy's going to make a mistake somewhere, and I quoted the perpetrator from Rachel Morin, the way he traveled and transversed all around, and it took months to get him.
You know, another thing too, he's following this. He's following on the internet. He's following the case. He saw his photo from you know, where he pulled the mask down. He did nothing to change his appearance. You know, he didn't dye his hair. He didn't cut his hair. He didn't he didn't go, you know, get his eyebrows shaved off or whatever. He didn't do anything to change his appearance.
I just noticed that I didn't change my appearance. I left my Sloan Kettering band on my arm from my treatment today. So I'm still wearing this hospital thing. I got to take that off. I wanted to just play this because it's appropriate.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? When they call you back?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a good day for justice. It's a good day for law enforcement. It's a good day for the good guys. It's a bad day for the bad guys. And I want to go to the chat, and I wanted to acknowledge some of the questions. Someone asked Ed Wallace, they asked you, what is a manifesto?
A manifesto is a incoherent rambling of a person's stance on a subject. Okay, I say incoherent, but it can be coherent. But in this case, like in Ted Kaczynski's case, you know, and other criminals, like there was a manifesto of a school shooter, and they are fighting tooth and nail not to release what she said in her explanation for why she was committing this heinous crime and school shooting. So typically, you know, they have some type of trigger, and they write about it in their, you know, what their thoughts are on that subject. So like Ted Kaczynski was, you know, anti-technology, anti-college. You know, he definitely had a beef with college and technology. And this guy has a beef with the medical insurance industry. You know, it's funny because up until fentanyl, do you know what the leading cause of death was in the United States that were killing more people than guns?
Malpractice?
Yeah, that's right. Medical malpractice.
Okay.
Medical malpractice.
Get that, Sarge. I knew you were going to get that.
Yeah.
Because we can have a complete show
Say
on
it, DutyRon. Tell them why I said that.
Because she's had the most amount of malpractice perpetrated against her.
Surgeries, another one Thursday.
That's right. The
I'm living proof, Ed.
Licensed medical professionals are killing more people every day than gun violence.
It's true, but we don't go around murdering them. Ed, they want to see you dancing.
Kate brought up a point, gentlemen. Kate said she thinks that he wanted to get caught. I think so. I think that he wanted this notoriety. I'm saying it wrong with my braces. This fame. Yeah.
He wanted his 15 minutes of fame, right?
Maybe 50 years of fame. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he thought that what he was doing, he justified it in his own mind. He justified it in his ramblings. Okay. And he wanted people to look at him as a hero. And, you know,
Yeah.
there are people that do look at him as
And
a
they
hero.
are. Look
Yeah.
at NYU. The students are now wearing shirts. What would he say? The 3 Ds on the bullets?
Right. Yeah.
Defend, detest. I don't know. Whatever. I don't want
Right,
to go
and that's
deeper.
that's from a book written about the healthcare insurance industry. Okay, now, in fact, even his
Cartridges, it said depose, defend, and delay, or whatever. I mean,
deny.
Look,
Deny. This is like the new Occupy Wall Street. They're making this a movement because, especially in New York, there's anything to make a movement. My concern is the jury. Look at the other high-profile case today. The jury pool is really crucial, and that's why I really hope it goes federal. I really hope it'll be button tight with the feds, like the lieutenant said. What do you guys think?
I think it will be button tight because our federal partners are embedded, the FBI, and I know for a fact because I talked to Big John. I'm not going to mention his last name because he's still active, and he said that the U.S. Marshals are also on the team. So U.S. Marshals are embedded with fugitive. They're there. You got the feds, the U.S. Marshals, and the LT. I'm glad that we had them on because I wouldn't even have thought of it. There's just so much going on. I want to say thank you to the super chatters, Danny, Marie, some of the members from the Coralite Mod Squad sending love and prayers. Wolf Pecker sent in a funny super chat early on. It couldn't have been Luigi. He was with me that morning. So I'm not
Who's that?
highlighting, but I'm
Who's that,
reading.
Mario?
No, Wolf Pecker. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tara Ellis gifted a membership, and look, Rhino Girl is back at it again. Luigi, I have a song for you. I fought the law and the law won. Excellent job, DutyRon and Ed and guests. Maybe he kept the gun to defend himself once cornered by police, in my opinion. He had an opportunity in that McDonald's, and that amazing aunt said, thank God that no innocent people were injured in that apprehension, because he said he had to scan the dining room. This rookie officer, I was paying attention to what he said. So it wasn't like it was just him there. It was just one guy. He had to scan the dining room. But in this small town in Pennsylvania, not a lot of people are wearing masks anymore. I hate to tell you, but they're not wearing masks over there. And he stood out probably like a sore thumb. Jeff Litweiler lost his mom last week. So mom in her 80s.
Sorry, Jeff.
May she continue to rest in peace. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. This is exactly why Ed's charge at the end every show to be alert. Head on a swivel and watch your six is so important. A killer in a McDonald's in rural America. Absolutely. And you know,
And I don't think he was done yet. He wasn't done yet.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. So let's see. Somebody said he could have been an unhinged loner. Possible.
I don't know. I mean, he
Do you
seems to
guys
have a
think
big
he's with
social
someone
media.
else? You think he had support, Ed? Financial or more support from an outside source, or just his family's resources?
I think, isn't he what they call a trust fund baby?
Yeah, that the occupiers. Remember Occupy Wall Street
Yeah.
in 2011?
They're all rich kids that had money in trust funds, and so he's able to do all this travel without working and having to pay bills because all his bills are paid for, and he's got money in the bank, and he's using that money to move around.
Cheryl Klein gives a great comment. Bragg needs to be voted out. And I'm going to say this.
Cheryl.
Alvin Bragg, here's a message for you.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Thank you, Cameron.
Thank
Ding
you.
dong. Thank you.
Cameron. All right. So hashtag Ed, hashtag amazing aunt. You could just do aunt, hashtag DutyRon.
That's fine.
We got another 5 minutes, and I'm just going to play this little piece right here because I promised to play it. Terry Monahan, I love to hear him talk. He's awesome.
I want to bring in the former chief of department at the NYPD, Terry Monahan, to us. Terry, before we get specific, your initial thoughts when you heard what you did about what happened this afternoon.
Listen, when you see him grabbing 5 days later, still carrying the gun, still carrying the same ID that he utilized when he checked into the hostel that everyone knew he was at, kind of surprised me that he wasn't more meticulous, more careful, especially how careful he was leaving the city. You would figure he would have gotten rid of a lot of that information. I was very surprised to see he had it, but it makes the case so much stronger for the cops. Now that he has all that information, once the ballistics comes back, I mean, they got him pretty solid.
What do you think is the motivation behind that? A lot of people talking about why did he still have a gun on him? They're talking about that handwritten note.
Is this an opportunity where he wants to send whatever his message is out, be caught, let people know he's the one that did it, and try and give whatever his manifesto may be? We'll see. Time will tell.
Walk us through the this aspect, Terry, in that there was a picture out, and everybody has theories. They're like, well, why aren't they calling him a suspect yet? And they're still not calling him a suspect yet. There are methodical things that have to happen. Walk us through a little bit.
There's a lot of things that have to go on. He has a lot of information that makes you believe he is the individual. But now you want to tie the ballistics together, that this is the gun. He's a gun that resembles it, but now ballistically it'll be tested. Will it match the shells that are on the scene? There's a bottle with DNA on it. Is his DNA going to be on that bottle? You want to put all this together so when you present the case to a grand jury and eventually to a trial, you have everything so that you can get not only an arrest, but an indictment and then a conviction.
Ron,
Speak a little bit to a possible motive here. We heard Jonathan D.
Did you say stop it, Ed?
Yeah. They're going to need that information, not only for everything that he just said, but to extradite him to New York on state charges, not the federal charges. If the feds take him, that's a different story.
Right.
But they're going to need to know that ballistic evidence matches, that DNA matches, and then charges, so that he's being charged in New York now, because without that, he's not getting extradited.
Yes. Well, they're dotting their I's and crossing the T's. The DA squad went down there to Pennsylvania. I watched the motorcade come into the police station. You had highway. I saw Highway 5. I saw Highway 1. So it was a caravan of folks going down there, a package. So I think they're going to do this the right way, and they're going to do it however way they see fit. Deborah, thank you for the super sticker. And Cindy Holenbeck, thank you for the 5. She says, keep up the great work, DutyRon and crew. We appreciate you. Thank you, Cindy, for the super love.
Real quick. The angry writings possibly on social media. There might have been word about some type of surgery, a back surgery he went through. We know he graduated, they said, from UPenn. That was confirmed, Ivy League school. Talk a little bit about possible motive, what you've learned.
He's a very intelligent individual. When I understood, a valedictorian at his high school, Ivy League school. So whatever his message is, I think his motivation will come out in the near future, that he's going to want to say it. I don't think he'll be quiet. We don't know. I don't think he's spoken to anyone yet. It'll be very interesting over the next couple of hours when detectives go to interview him, if he's willing to explain everything, tell the world why he did what he did. An event like this, a lot of times that individual has a message that he wants to spread out. He's caught. He's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. Is there a message that he's going to try and get out? We'll see as time goes on.
I don't agree with that. But Ed, here's a highlighted question for you. Hashtag Ed Wallace. How true is the ballistics off a ghost gun? So she's saying the accuracy, is it the same as a branded Smith & Wesson firearm, Mr. Wallace?
I think she's talking about the analysis, but you correct me if we're wrong, Rachel. But the point is that the term ghost gun, what does it really mean? It really means that it's a homemade gun that doesn't have a serial number, and it's on the lower, not the upper. So it's on the receiver, not the upper. Now the upper mechanism is all metal. Okay, it's not polymer plastic. That's the lower. The upper is metal, has the metal components. It has the slide. It has the chamber. It has the barrel. Has the feed ramp. It has the breech face, the firing pin, the extractor, and the ejector pin and hooks. That's all there. So in terms of leaving forensic ballistic tool markings on the cartridge cases and the lands and grooves of the barrel on the bullet, on the rifling, all of that is going to be there. Okay. He fired several bullets out of that gun that struck this victim and killed him. And those bullets were recovered at autopsy. And then he had to manually extract the cartridges because the gun wasn't working properly. Now, people say it was jamming. I don't think it was jamming. I just don't think it was feeding properly, or as I say, the slide was not working properly because I saw the gunshot residues were coming out of the sides of the gun. So now that tells me even more about the way that gun was made. The tolerances on that gun weren't to the standards of a Smith & Wesson, a Glock, or another manufacturer, and the gases were escaping out of the sides of this gun, and it wasn't allowing the mechanism of the slide to operate properly.
Right. And could the suppressor have thrown off the balance of the gun, forcing some type of malfunctions as well?
Well, and also remember we talked about the way he was holding the gun. Yeah, all of that.
Right.
He was
It
anticipating.
didn't
and he had-
jam. It didn't feed.
Right. Right.
It didn't jam. It didn't feed.
Is that why he kept racking the slide? He was anticipating,
Yes.
but he kept racking it. Even though it looked jammed, he was racking it for basically a smooth operation. It wasn't smooth.
Yes.
DB Bentley, thank you for the generous $50 super sticker. Much appreciated. Much love to both of you. PQE sends in 2. She says he was probably going to repeat. They definitely saved a life. Absolutely. I got some stuff that I want to show. And Ed, I'm sorry I was putting you on full screen. Did you have something that you wanted to say, Amazing Ed? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have a comment from Carlito Classical that said he definitely wasn't done. He said, quote, they had to pay in his note on him, but he was saying, why would he hang on to all the stuff? I guess all the evidence that was on him.
Okay. I mean, yeah. If this guy wasn't stopped, God only knows what he would have done. Frisco Pisco says, #Ed, could the Sharpie pen leave any evidence in the barrel of the gun that he wrote on the thing? That's a reach, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that would be the case, especially if it was dried. It was written on the side of the cartridge case with an permanent marker. So we not too sure that it's in fact a Sharpie. That's a name brand, but it could have been, right? But not in the barrel. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. So it is what it is. There's a lot of work to be done. I want to show just a little bit of his social media here.
Mangione has an ample online presence. He grew up in Baltimore, graduated from the exclusive all-boys high school Gilman as 2016 valedictorian.
Luigi Nicholas Mangione.
Nothing out of the ordinary as he spoke at a Founders Day celebration.
It's been an incredible journey, and I simply can't imagine the last few years with any other group of guys.
Gilman sent us a statement today. Luigi Mangione's suspected involvement in this case is deeply distressing news on top of an already awful situation. Our hearts go out to everyone affected. Mangione went on to the University of Pennsylvania for bachelor's and master's degrees in engineering and computer science. And for 4 months in the summer of 2019, Stanford University confirms Mangione worked there as a head counselor in the pre-collegiate studies program, writing on his LinkedIn that he taught artificial intelligence to gifted high school students. His Facebook page included several photos of him enjoying the sights around the Bay Area. Since 2020, Mangione wrote that he worked at TrueCar, the used car app based out of Santa Monica, but the company tells me he stopped working there in 2023. There are clues on his social media that he may have suffered a catastrophic medical emergency, an x-ray of a spine with 4 screws on his X or Twitter page. Mangione carried other potential evidence when arrested, a ghost gun, a fake ID.
He's also in possession of several items that we believe will connect him to this incident.
Police also found a 2-page document when they detained Mangione, and CNN is reporting some of what he allegedly wrote, citing law enforcement sources. These parasites had it coming, and I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done.
So that was part of the manifesto, some of the writings. Again, I rushed to come down here to the live. Did you guys hear that before we were on, or was this the first time?
Yeah, and note he said parasites, not parasite.
Yeah,
plural. Let's listen again.
CNN is reporting some of what he allegedly wrote, citing law enforcement sources. These parasites had it coming, and I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done.
Wow.
And this may be another clue.
So multiple. This guy talks about the backpack. I just wanted to hear this for a second.
This is
Hold that
my
thought. Hold that thought.
Backpack, but it's the same brand and color of the one found in Central Park after the killing. It's made by Peak Design, a San Francisco company. Each of these contains a serial number where the company can trace the purchase history. Now, the owner of this company, Pete Deering, contacted authorities, but texted me today that he's decided not to give interviews to the media, but he talked to the authorities right away when he saw his bag there on those evidence. Right away, yeah, exactly. He called the authorities. So the question is whether he helped
to also trace this bag to
that person.
Well, I damn sure hope he did, and I'm sure he did. Amazing Ant, your thought.
Okay, real quick to wrap up, I have 2 points, one about patrol and one about the perpetrator. That's what I say on patrol, suspect in custody. For the future, if your audience is interested, I know the Freudian psychology who took down the son of Sam, her husband, Dr. Harvey Schlossberg, he created the hostage negotiation team for the NYPD. He passed away in 2021. He was my college professor at St. John's University. I've known them for over 20 years, 20 plus years. And I've had a front row seat to how they're approached psychologically to serial killers or people, as they mentioned this guy, to be unedged and off hinge. It looks like if he did have this kind of injury and surgery, there's probably some chemical, and I'm not defending him, I'm just looking at some of the fingerprints, no pun intended, of his actions, his suffering, right? Son of Sam suffered emotionally and had sexual issues. This gentleman, if he did have that surgery in the healthcare system, I know this because of all my surgeries, it's very isolating. I'm not justifying what he did, but I'm interested to see a professional come on and evaluate how did that affect his limbic system and his thought process. So that's just one aspect, right, for people in the audience who may be looking for a humane or social type of approach. From a personal approach, what?
Absolutely. No, that's fascinating stuff.
That's one part. We'll talk about it offline, and maybe we can bring her on for the future, Ed, and talk about, psychological forensics, right? And profiles. I think that would be interesting. I've been meaning to talk to you both about that. And then 2 things.
I want Ed to dance.
You just cut the sergeant off. Knock it off.
That's okay. Stop it. I respect the age over beauty, so I give you the respect first.
I love the Sarge. She's my sister.
He's my brother. So here's my last point, and I say this and I get choked up, and DutyRon knows how I am about patrol. I went to St. John's. I got a master's. I've worked other careers, private sector, and I love being a first responder, all from my days at 9/11 as a volunteer EMT. And being on the front line, I've always worked midnight patrol because I went to school, and then I worked another job, and then I caregived. The reason why I'm bringing that up for your community here, I'm not the typical midnight patrol cop, right? I'm a female, I'm an EMT, and I just have a different approach from what most people picture, the midnight crusty cop who's sleeping in a police car, not doing anything. That's what people would laugh and tell me, you don't
You were
seem like
very
the
active.
midnight cop.
You were very active.
I was moving around probably too much, which is why I got ahead of myself, but that's another conversation. My point is, does everyone in the chat, did you see that video of the patrol officer doing CPR with blue latex gloves on the victim, and he's calling for help, and I saw his face, and I looked closely and I paused it. He was exhausted. This job came on for 20 minutes before the midnight police officers in New York City come back to the precinct and start cleaning up and signing out. So they work the whole night. It's cold. It's probably a little slower. No one's expecting you're going to show up to someone shot and you're going to do CPR in the middle of Manhattan where tourists are and a Christmas tree is down the block, the Rockefeller tree. And this officer, I saw the look in his face. He was exhausted and he did CPR to save this person as if it was his own family. And I have to salute patrol nationwide, not just the NYPD, even though I love the NYPD, but I have to salute every officer who's out there while we're all sleeping, warm in our homes, who doesn't know what's going on in the bigger level. And they're just out there to do what's right to protect and to save lives and preserve life. And I have to give credit to every patrol officer and then every detective who gets the call at 6 a.m, the homicide night watch, and people like Ed who go out there relying on patrol to give them accurate information and then to take it to the next level. So this is the most beautiful job I've seen in a while from the NYPD and our partners and you guys.
Okay, breaking news.
What?
The district attorney's office in Manhattan has officially filed murder charges against Mangione.
Yeah. Before we went live, I saw a excerpt from the press conference there. Towards the end, there was a reporter outside of the police station, and he got interviewed chief. I think it's I don't remember the chief's name. The chief that was there, she grabbed him, and he said that they were waiting for the DA to file charges. This is a great comment, Sergeant Amazing Ant. You are truly amazing. Thank you for putting that perspective out about the perp. I just was saying that too. No excuse, but I agree. Thank you for all your work. And let me tell you something, Aunt, you are highly loved by this audience here. And I want to also
I
say
feel embarrassed.
I want to also thank you for taking out the time. You have a busy schedule. You do a lot of different things. But also I want to thank Cindy Holenbeck for sending me this message, a statement from the Mangione family regarding their son's arrest. Unfortunately, we cannot comment on news reports regarding Luigi Mangione. We only know what we have read in the media. Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and as we ask people to pray for all who are involved. We are devastated by this news. Okay, that's a great statement, and it's signed the Mangione family. Notice, folks, this is going out to the people who are cheerleading on this vicious murderer. His own family sent prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, the CEO who was murdered. That's a class act, and I think it was the right thing to do. These are wealthy people, and people in the chat are talking about GoFundMe's to help fund this guy's defense. His family is going to provide him with attorneys. I almost guarantee that. Okay, but they put that statement out there. I'm sure they put it out there under counsel's advice. But that's still a very nice statement to see and hear, because look at what Brian Laundrie's family did to Gabby Petito. Yeah, you know, these are two different cases, but those are stone cold monsters, that family, the Dirty Laundries. So complete contrast to what we have here. I just want to make sure we got all the super chats. Carrie sends in a super chat, and she says, what does it mean pistol was 3D printed? We covered that. Ed, could you do it in a condensed version and then we could wrap?
Yes, the bottom half of this firearm, known as the receiver, is polymer plastic. And so if you can download the blueprints for that part, and you have access to the polymer and a 3D printer, you can actually print out that portion of the gun.
Right. And it's frightening because it could be made with parts sent. You know, you have to order this stuff online, but they send parts, and it could be made by just a Joe Blow or anybody that can follow instructions on putting something together. No?
Yeah, just Google polymer 80. That's all. Just Google polymer 80, and you'll see it's 80% of a gun.
Yeah. Homemade gun. Thank you, Kate Lewis. All right, Ed, I know you always got something to say at the end of these things. It is first, before we get to you and doing that, I want to just say this. We told you so, right? You heard it here first on Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed. Well, I'm sorry, Ed. I have to do this.
Yeah.
Greatest detectives in the world, the NYPD, were on this case. And I said it along with Ed. You agreed with me. They are going to catch this perpetrator. I won't say stuff like that unless I really feel it in my heart. And I felt that they were going to catch him. But my feeling was wrong a little bit, because I thought that this guy was going to take the coward's way out, which he didn't. So I'm not always right, and I don't claim to always be right, but we told you so. And when you heard it here first, listen, we worked for this police department, the New York City Police Department, largest municipal police department in the United States. And the detectives and the amount of resources that we have are unbelievable. And the experience, forget the resources, the experience from doing cases like this is how we get these things done. But it wasn't without the help of the public. So I'm saying thank you. Thank you to the good citizens that are keeping their eyes open. If you see something, say something, and do something. And that was done in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And those people are heroes. They need the keys to the city. They need all the kudos and accolades that they could be provided. So God bless them. And thank you to all of the super chatters, the replay viewers, the Patreon supporters, the mod squad. We love you guys so much. Ed, take it from here.
All right, folks. Thank you for sharing your time with us on our channel and being a part of our family. You know, it's a good day for the criminal justice system, a good day for law and order. Thank you for being here again, and always stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Amen,
I
brother.
forgot to
Go
add
ahead.
something.
I wouldn't not let us go without you getting a final
Well, I
word.
thought Popeye was going to come out and kick me out. So
Never.
Ed and Ron, guess what this week is for us?
Okay.
TikTok, Jeopardy. Okay, I'll speed you up because it's 11 and it's past your bedtime. And
That's right.
This is the time I normally start work. For everyone wondering what midnight bosses work, we work 11 o'clock at night till 8 in the morning. It's a year ago I met Ed through DutyRon when I was running to deliver empanadas, and I was cooking them and listening to the live, I think, Kohlberger case. And I came on with an empanada shirt last minute and greasy hair to say hi.
And where's my empanadas?
They're coming. They're coming. We got to connect. We'll celebrate DutyRon's good health, the new year, the new beginning, this new chapter. And I also wanted to tell the community, thank you so much for welcoming me. I'm new to this. I'm a rookie with all of this, and age, just don't tell them. And I want to say, if I don't come on for the holiday, because I don't know where we're all going to be with the lives and the holidays, I want to just tell everyone, this group has brought a lot of light and positivity to my life. And down the road, when I'm able to, I'll tell you my story, because some of you want to even know my real name, right? But I want to say, in the season of light, for Hanukkah, for Christmas, Kwanzaa, everything's centered around light. Let us all be the light in the world, because all the killers we talk about in all these cases, that light was snuffed out to those individuals. And then they snuffed out someone else's light. And it's up to us every day to be the light, no matter how bad we feel inside. And if you really are feeling that bad, feel free to message us in DutyRon. We will be there for you. We'll give you resources so we can get your light back, and we could be the light to you. So thank you, everyone.
All right. I got to end it with something here.
Go.
Because when I see your face, there's not a thing that I would change.
That's my song.
Because you're
amazing.
Just the way you are.
I have the man voice.
Yeah. Well, listen, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we want to say thank you to everyone who joined. And here is my HR guy. This is Toby Flenderson right here. Nate, that is my HR guy. You met him when you came to the office. The tall skinny guy. So there's Nate sending in a $10 super chat. You know he's going to take that out of my pay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat, Nate. I want to just say, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the Thompson family and to all the law enforcement partners across. There was 80 different agencies that worked on this case. We send you guys strength, prayers, and positive vibes. Thank you all for joining. And on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we bid you a good night. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.